Good morning and welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Pace, I'm your host, and this is How to Fight CPS and also Keep Your Children or Get Back Your Children. I've been doing this uh, with CPS for going on 14 years now. It started back with me in 2010. My incident where they trafficked my children was 2015. So it's now 2024. I've been doing this podcast. I've talked to over 500 people about CPS, including countries, and it looks like we have someone that calls in. Great. Good morning.
Morning, Bob.
And who is this?
My name's Caroline.
Okay, Carolyn Moody TV. Is that who you called in? Okay, good. Called in. Welcome. You're ahead of me. Have you been on my show before or seen my show before?
Yeah, I've been watching recently.
Okay, I'm glad that you called because you must have a CPS concern.
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh.
And yeah, my husband and I have alleged domestic violence going on. Allegedly, it's his family reporting all of these allegations.
A lay person, yes. Okay.
A who?
There's two types of reporting people. There's professionals which have a job like a teacher or fireman or policeman that report. And then there's the lay people, family, friends, in-laws, neighbors. Those are called lay people, meaning that they sometimes use by calling in to think it will help them solve their issue. Like it may be a neighbor who doesn't like the noise you're creating or doesn't like your yard encroaching them, or a dog that doesn't do like that. So they're going to do it. And in my case, back in 2010, when I lost my job, my in-laws were constantly interfering with me and my wife and her 6 children.
Yep.
And they were saying for 5 years that we weren't taking care of the kids. They wanted the kids. And this was my in-laws in another state. I'm in California. They're in Ohio. And they're reporting things that weren't true. And of course, for 5 years, I was able to keep them off my back. But then unfortunately, they got involved with the police department, and the police department tried to be a Billy Badass and find out where I was and demand I come to my home. And what I know now, I should have never done what I did. But anyway, I know where you're coming from. I know it like that. Yeah, I'm sorry too. So what's happened is that, how did it start with you and your husband? You just weren't compatible, or?
No, we're married. Everything's fine. This is what's going on, Bob. It's such a complicated situation. That's why I had to call in and try to get some info.
Sure. Go ahead.
So we live also in LA County, and we live on 20 acres of property out in the desert.
Okay.
Owned by my father-in-law.
Okay.
And my husband and him built us a house for my husband and I and our son to live in.
Okay. Is this involving one children? Is this involving one children?
Yes, we have one child together.
Okay. All right.
My first son, he's 3.
All right.
Anyway, long story short, this man is a crackhead, an unstable drug addict.
Your husband?
And no, God forbid. No, his dad, his father.
Oh, his father is been in drugs. Oh, okay. Did you knew that before you married your husband? Did you know that before you married your husband?
Yes.
Okay.
He was in recovery, supposedly. So anyway, long story short, we moved in here, a lot of hallucinations, whatever. I've never lived with a drug addict before, and like I said, it's 20 acres of property, so it's like we have our own separate dwelling, but he kept getting involved in our life. Anyway, long story short, it's so complicated.
It's okay. Take your time. I know it's emotional. Take your time. Don't worry.
Thank It's just frustrating because, he built up all these lies, and now, I'm having to prove my character. Like, they couldn't prove the domestic violence at our first hearing, Bob. So then we got rescheduled for another hearing, May 17th.
Does he have a temporary restraining order against you?
No, there's no domestic violence going on between my husband and I.
Well, okay,
That's why it's such a complicated situation.
I know, but what are then my question is, what are the allegations that they're charging you and your husband about your child?
Okay, the first one was because I sent his crackhead father a video of me saying I felt unsafe during an argument and I was holding my baby, and he sent that video into DCS. So they came and removed my child.
And what was the allegation of removing your child?
For domestic violence.
Well, wait. If there's no domestic charges, how's there domestic violence?
What do you mean charges?
Anytime someone does a domestic violence, it's a criminal matter. It's not a CPS matter, a child protection service matter. It's a criminal matter, and they will issue a temporary restraining order against the person that supposedly alleges doing domestic violence. Then you have to go to criminal court, and the person that claimed domestic violence has to prove his case in court. Otherwise, it's dropped.
That's what I'm saying. It should have been dropped May 1st, but instead, now they reassigned us.
Well, okay, here's the thing a domestic court will drop it. You got two different court jurisdictions.
No.
CPS.
It's a juvenile court.
I know, but CPS, it's called dependency court, and dependency court does not deal with they do not deal with domestic violence. That's a criminal matter.
Right, we're dealing with juvenile court.
Right, and it has to be either neglect or abuse. If the child is in danger of neglect, abuse. So what is the neglect or what is the abuse?
There is none. That's why we're very confused.
Okay, and that's why. Yeah. Did you get a public defender? Or are you trying to do it all yourself, or do you get an attorney?
We have a public defender, and they're pretty much useless, and we're still very confused.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
As soon as they took him, as soon as they took our child, we enrolled in domestic violence classes, anger management classes, individual therapy, marriage counseling, parenting, high conflict. We did everything and anything to try to help get our child back. And it's almost going on 3 months now.
Well, they don't want to give your child back because they need to make money off your child. The whole purpose.
I know that, but I'm confused as to why, if they couldn't prove domestic violence, why now are they moving on to try to prove us mentally unfit?
They're just trying to think of anything the way to cloudy or muddy your experience. The only way you're going to get out of that is to get a real attorney. It's like, as I say, if you're trying to do open heart surgery, you're not going to get a plumber to do open heart surgery. You're not getting a layperson to open you up. You're not going to do it yourself. You're going to get a professional family law attorney. The court-appointed attorneys is a waste of time. They don't talk to you the day of the hearing, and they won't fight for you. And it's the thing is, and they know this. See, CPS knows this. You deal with the LA County CPS, right?
Yep, unfortunately.
Yeah, they are really notoriously bad, and of course, the judges are corrupt in the courtroom. So. Your dependency judge.
Did you get your kids back?
Yeah, I got 2 of my 3 kids back. What happened is that mine was negligence, and it's because I had my parents' belongings at my house because they were dying and they were sold their house, and I was sorting through them and putting them to boxes and furniture and stuff. You can imagine taking 4,000 square feet of 55 years of your parents' belongings into your house that you've been living there for a long time, and it's 3,000 square feet. That it looks like a cluttered mess. And they were saying that the kids were in danger because the boxes could fly upstairs and attack them in bed, or the furniture could walk up the stairs and attack them. It was some stupid remark like that. But they tried to prove their case. And for a year and a half, I fought with a public defender myself, and I got nowhere. I had to hire an attorney. I sold my house to pay for it. and I got a real professional attorney. The only problem is I waited so long. Um, uh, Three of my younger children were living with the older children had already moved out, but the two boys and the girls were 9, 12, and 15. And my daughter at 12 was told by the social worker, you are going to divorce your parents, you're going to change your name, you're going to seal your birth certificate, and you're going to be adopted into a foster care. And she ordered my daughter to do that. My daughter was terrified, so she did what she was told. She doesn't know that at age 12. And so, and that was because the social worker was upset because when I finally got an attorney and we're in cross-examining the social worker, she lied underneath oath and we caught her and she wanted to do revenge. You see, the CPS workers or social workers don't have any accountability. There's no one really watching over them. They're told that you'll get a bonus if you keep the case open. And, they get a pretty big bonus because she bragged about her Gucci purses, her clothing, her eyelashes, her eye makeup, her car that she was getting for this. So she was not interested. She's not college educated. She didn't even have any social work classes. So she knew nothing what she was talking about. She's young. She never mentored another social worker. She was giving her free arm to do stuff that she wasn't supposed to. And so I'm trying to tell you, you're in a nightmare. And the only way you're going to get out of the nightmare is you need to hire a professional that can navigate the CPS, because CPS, you're like Alice in Wonderland. You've suddenly fallen in a hole, and now you're going through all these doors, and they don't go to anywhere, and people are so crazy talking to you. You're lost. You're like Alice in Wonderland. You're trapped in there until you get a professional family law attorney fighting for you. And the only way you're going to get that is you have to find one. Now, there's three types of attorneys. There's your court appointed, there's your pro bono attorney, and the ones that you pay. And, the court appointed very rarely has any family experience. The pro bono may be pro bono, but they still want money. I know the pros and cons. There's people that done it, but it all depends on your financial situation. I had no money because I was unemployed. For 5 years, I was trying to make house payments on my house. And I finally realized that if I'm going to get my children back, I got to sell my house. So I sold my house. I used the money I made, and I hired Mr. Vincent W. Davis. And he fought, and he got my kids back. And if I had more money, I would have sued CPS. And we would have done a civil lawsuit and won millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's what we're going to try to do because they're forcing my child to be vaccinated right now.
Have you given up your medical rights? Have you given up your medical rights?
Huh?
Have you given up your medical rights? Then you cannot be forced vaccinated. You cannot. You have a right.
That's what I said, but the courts ordered it. The judge ordered it. So I don't
How
know.
did the judge order something when you have medical rights? You should have
That's
said,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, you should have done this in court. You should have approached the bench. Your Honor, I'm representing myself. I'm going to look for another attorney. This court-appointed attorney is not working out. I want to fight my case. I want to stay a continuance of this hearing until I get an attorney aboard. And he may give you 30 days. But you need to get rid of your court-appointed attorney. He's the one that's screwing you over.
Yeah, he's not doing anything, and every time.
Well, you need to get rid of him. You need to get rid of him. You either go to the court appointee's office in court and have him replaced or fired, and then you represent it yourself. And you're going to have to really learn Law 101. I mean, it is tough because you have civil rights and you have constitutional rights. The dependency court doesn't care. The social workers don't care.
How do we know if we have medical rights? Because last time we did, but how do we check on that?
Well, you could Google it. The knowledge is what's going to win your case. There's so many. I have right now 97 never signed tabs. Well, it's the way you arrange your words. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to do LA County, California, find in LA County. And what are you trying to find? You're trying to find CPS, parents medical rights in CPS cases. And then you're going to see a bunch of stuff popped up. You're going to read it. You're going to look at it. There are attorneys that'll give you advice. Some are $5 a month joining in. Some are a $60 one-time fee for 30 minutes. You know, you're going to have to shop around. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, Bob, something.
Mm-hmm.
They keep requesting to come into the office to like investigate and talking about the allegations, but why if this is a court matter now?
Well, why they? Well, they're trying to
something.
find something. There's nothing wrong coming in the court, but you could tell them if you feel uncomfortable coming into the office. You can say, "I need to speak to a professional attorney. I will get back to you. Give me your business card."
Yeah, because now that I went into the office, they made up all these lies, and she wouldn't let me record her. And after I read the report, I'm like, this lady's literally lying, and there's nothing we can do. And I told my lawyer,
there is. You need to have an attorney there. You're allowed by law to have an attorney, and your court-appointed attorney won't go to it.
Great. Yeah, so I told him, you know, I don't want to cooperate with these people because, you know, don't I legally have the right not to? And he's like, well, it's a catch-22. You don't cooperate, you're going to look bad. If you cooperate, obviously you see the lies that they're writing about you. But he's like, I don't know what to tell you. You're a victim of the system. I'm like, what the heck? This is like not at all the vernacular.
It's the worst federal system. It's a government agency that's gone amok. It's $55 billion business a year. They're taking an average of $20,000 per child per month, as long as they keep the case open. And it's all about money. It's all about money. Well, you have to hire a professional family law attorney. And I know that's the worst cases. Well, do you have title on the home? Do you have title on the home? Can you take out a credit line?
We have a home. We're talking to another lawyer, but I just wanted to call in asking, you know, questions like how do they even are allowed to do this with just hearsay? With no proof of neglect or abuse, how do they just kidnap your kid?
By saying the words in the report. They don't have to prove. You're guilty by the call-in. Whoever made the call-in, they believe the call is for real. But if you had an attorney, a good experienced attorney, he would have told the honor, my client has no criminal matter with domestic violence. Where is the domestic violence? Or he'll say, your jurisdiction in family court is not domestic violence. That's criminal court. You're in the wrong court there. You need someone that knows the law, someone that has been educated. Now, in 14 years, I've learned a lot. What I know today, I would never have lost my daughter. And what I know today, I would never got myself in the mess in the first place. I opened up. I'd be honest with them, but that didn't work. They're not transparent. I ain't talked to the director.
Exactly, I was honest.
Yeah, I ain't talked to the director. And the director was one ear, went out the other. He could care less. He was in Taj Mahal. Yep. This is Orange County. He's a Taj Mahal building. And he, you know, had so much gold around his neck, I thought he would fall over. The building was like the Emerald City in the Wizard of Oz. It was like so overkill. And himself, his supervisors, his managers were useless. And so for a year and a half, I tried to fight him with all the knowledge I could grasp of myself. I tried the public defenders. I went through a couple dozen of them, and they were useless. They were fine. What I know now is that if I ever receive a call or a letter, I'm going to get a hold of a professional attorney. And if they happen to see me, I'm not going to say, I'll say yes, no answers. But then if it gets really contagious, I'll say, excuse me, we have to end this conversation. I need to speak to my attorney. Please give me your business card. I would never let them in my house. I would never have allowed them to take my children. I would never bring my children to their office. And I don't mind coming to their office, but I wouldn't go there unless I had an attorney.
Yeah, like our problem was we're gated in, so they couldn't get to my front door. So every time they got to the gate, I just sent them away because they're an uninvited guest. And then she sent the cops at 3 in the morning for a welfare check. Obviously, we let them in. We have nothing to hide, a clean home, food in the fridge. Our son was sleeping.
That was for that was for reuse. Did they have a court warrant to do a welfare check?
Nope, that was our mistake. We let him in.
Yeah, which you could have told the cops. You could have said, "I'm perfectly fine. The reason why I don't answer my gates and people because I don't want to be involved. Is there a crime I'm committing? Is it you ask the guy through the window, and is there a crime I'm committing? You know, do you have a warrant? Do you have a court order to enter my property?" And they say, "No, we can get one." So, yeah.
Yeah, we learned that, and we let him in thinking that, okay, they'll see everything's fine. But no, then the next day they came again, this time with the social worker, and said that she needed to see, I needed to like lift up my son's shirt, take off his pants, all this stuff I was very uncomfortable with.
Wow, they went that far. Usually they go through underwear drawers. That's where they usually go through it.
No, they didn't even come in my home. That's why I'm so like, how did they even? Okay, the cops came in my home, but the DCF workers didn't. And again, it's a lot of property before you even get to my front door. But still, like they just stopped in the middle of the driveway and asked to see him. And I listened.
Where was your husband all this time? Where was your husband all this time?
He works in Hollywood. He works for the studios, so he's gone from 3:30 in the morning till about 8 at night. So every single time.
Does he care about what's happening?
Huh?
Does your husband care what's happening?
Of course, we're both.
Well, he's the one. Well, then who's the domestic violence against? Your father-in-law?
I'm sorry?
Who's the domestic violence? Is it your father-in-law?
No, his family saying that I'm crazy. It's me. The allegations are against me. And
what does your husband want to do about this matter? What does your husband want to do?
He wants to get away from his family. He wants to move out of state. I mean, we've had problems with his family.
So he's behind you. So he's behind you then.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Does he, if he works in Hollywood, he doesn't have money to hire or retain a lawyer?
I've been telling him since the first time they knocked on the door, and he's just saying like, "We'll see what happens." He's
okay.
I guess I'm putting on excuses for him. He's type 1 diabetic, and he's very, very tired. So when he gets home, it's kind of just like, make lunch, get ready, and then start. He's in a cycle, and we're trying to help break out of that.
Let me try you to tell this story. Yeah, I want you to tell this to you. I want you to tell this to your husband. Picture 8 social workers in pink T-shirts, and embossed on the front of their T-shirts, it says they're professional child kidnappers, and on the back it says, where are your children? They wore this, 8 of them paraded through a store in Arizona that everybody saw. They've been fired. The director's been fired. But that's the mentality of the people you're doing. That's in Prescott, Arizona. That happened in 2022. You can look on the internet. But you need to embrace upon your husband how serious this matter is. It's open heart surgery. You got to tell him it's open heart surgery. Would you have an auto mechanic who is the same as, say, a court-appointed attorney do the surgery? Would you have a lay person do the surgery? Would you yourself do it? No. You're going to get a professional family law attorney. And I have one, and he's willing to talk to you for 30 minutes for $60 about strategies, how to fight CPS. And if you like him, the chemistry is good, he'll talk about his retainer. And he's in Southern California, so he's not far from you, so he doesn't have the extra fees for per diem, meaning the transportation and the accommodations he charges when he goes to other states. He fights Southern California, Northern California. He has won many times against CPS. He's gotten it back. It's well worth the $60 you invest in his time. And then on top of that, he will tell you about his retainer. And, if your husband has a good job, you should be able to get a retainer, or you could take a credit line on your home. If you guys are the owner of that home, you can very easily get a $50,000 credit line on your home. It's not hard to do.
It's just a built home, like it's an illegal dwelling on the desert. Like
What do you mean illegal? You don't have a title to the home?
No, like there's 2 homes on 20 acres. One is not legal. The one that we built for ourselves. Like we just built a home on the dad's property.
You didn't go through.
We can't get
You didn't go through code enforcement. I mean, you did not go through building inspection.
Correct, and I actually just called code enforcement and safety on him because now, so he's called DCF on us, got our son taken away, and now he's trying to evict us when there was never any lease agreement. We built this house for our family, said we could live here rent-free for as long as we wanted. So I went ahead and called Edison on him because he's also stealing power. He's been doing that for over a decade. So, yeah, I'm trying to report.
Well, what's going to happen, it sounds like your father-in-law is very wealthy. And it sounds like...
He's retired from studios.
Well, it doesn't make a difference. That land he's sitting on is probably worth a lot of millions, okay?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I know how much land is.
He's a crackhead, so...
Yeah, and if he's a crackhead, he has to support his habit. Believe me, he's wealthy. And the sad part about the whole thing is you and your husband made a mistake of not getting a title for that land, and you did not get the house built with the building code and inspected and so forth. So you have a home that the owner may have verbally give you permission, but you have nothing in writing. So they can take away the home.
The owner built it with us.
Doesn't make a difference who built it. He has to have it, give you a title. If he doesn't give you a title, he's going to take everything.
We don't need a title if it's just like on his land.
You need to own the land, because if you do not own the land, you have no rights to put that building there. You don't have a building write-off. You did not, for instance, go to the city of where the city is in that and say, I need a building permit. Yeah. And
yeah, I know. We already hired a lawyer for this separate situation. Yeah. We already retained the lawyer for $800 to fight this.
Yeah, well, that's...
So it's a whole other situation.
I know. But I'm just trying to think. Your solution is you need a professional family law attorney that has experience fighting CPS. And you go, he did that with me. It took me a year and a half. But I sold my home, and the money I used for him paid him. I was able to keep my home for 5 years without all my savings to pay the mortgage. I had a $5,000 a month mortgage, including property tax and everything else. So I only lasted 5 years from my savings. And when they took my kids illegally, then I had to come up with some more money. So I said, all right, I'm selling my home, because I already had a credit line on there. And, so my home didn't have much way of equity. So I had to sell my home. And what little I got from selling my home, I used to pay my attorney. He fought for my 2 boys. They were retained in 2017, December. My daughter, we were fighting her, and we won her being illegally put in with her sister. But then she went ahead and did the divorce from us as parents, divorce from her grandparents, divorce from her brothers, changed her name and sealed her birth certificate. And then on top of that, moved in with a foster care family. And then at age 21, she's no longer with them. She said that things really changed bad. So somehow she's got herself a job. She's doing well at 21, but she's not talked to me or her mother since she was 12 years old.
Sorry.
That's okay. I want to say good morning to Lori Hiller. She's on my show for William Mullins. I guess William Mullins is her son, that she just comes on and listens. So I don't know where Lori's from, but welcome, Lori. You're always welcome to tell me where you're from. For all your listeners right now, we have Carolina Moon talking on the phone about a very tough case that emotionally has really taken her toll on her. Her and her husband have an unusual situation. It involves a one son. Somehow CPS is doing criminal court now where they say that there's domestic violence, but there's no domestic violence. And so I don't know what she is neglect on, or what she's physically, or has she neglected what? I don't know. So
we haven't abused or neglected our son at all.
Well, I understand that, but they need to charge you with something. Like with me, they charge neglect.
Right, neglect. That's what they're saying. Neglect.
Okay, and then my thing says further is because of the boxes for my family and the furniture that were piled that may endanger the kids. So what is the neglect they say? That you have yelling with your father-in-law, or what are they saying?
No, that there is allegations of abuse in the home, and that
Yeah, but the abuse has got to be defined. They got to define the abuse. They just can't use the word loosely. They tried to, but they need to be definitive on it.
You broke up, Bob.
Okay, they need to be definitive on the abuse.
Yeah.
Is it sexual abuse? Is it sexual abuse?
Huh?
Is it and that's, I'm trying to say what the abuse is. Is it sexual abuse? Is it hitting the child too hard? Excessive corporate punishment?
No, nothing.
Well, they got to elaborate. They can't just say the word.
Don't yell at our kids.
Okay, so is it? There's not a law. There's not a law that says you cannot yell at your children.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Oh. Well, that was strange. I was trying to help out Caroline Moon, and apparently when I asked her further or try to tell her, she didn't like what I was saying. But supposedly all I've got out of her story is that she supposedly has abuse or neglect. There's no details. She's using a court-appointed attorney, and she's trying to help out her case. I was trying to let you explain. I was only asking you questions to make them more understandable to our listeners. That's all I was trying to do, Carolyn. I apologize if you don't think I was giving you time. I was trying to pull out from you what the detail of the abuse and neglect is, because I've never had anybody tell me that, oh, we're just charged with abuse or charged with neglect. There's got to be some reason, like I explained to you about my case. So I apologize. I was trying to let you talk. I was not trying to not let you talk. I devoted my whole show to you. I haven't even, gone over my rules, my show, or other matters about it. So I apologize if I came across not the way that you want me to come across. I apologize for that. Okay, this morning when I opened up the shows, I was explaining about what this purpose of this podcast is to help out others. I'm a caring, loving man. I do want to help others, and I really appreciate you guys opening up. Well, I would have to see. My question is, Caroline, is there a dependency petition filed that would tell you in detail on that paperwork what you're charged with? Usually, or all cases I've heard, it's like abuse and you were sexually doing something to your kids, or using too heavy a corporate punishment, or you were slamming the child against the wall. Those are some of the allegations of abuse. Neglect is that you weren't feeding the child, you weren't taking care of them, weren't taking them to school, weren't dressing them or changing their diapers. Those are neglect. And that's all I was asking, was to get, I know you keep referring to domestic violence, that's fine, but domestic violence is a criminal matter. If they say that you're neglect because of domestic violence, then this LA County social worker has really gone really crazy enough, because I've heard about some of the allegations there, and um, you need to go to the director of LA County and speak to him, or you need to replace your social worker. You can replace your court appointed attorney if you want to stick with them. You can replace the judge, and you can go to the director to complain. Those are open avenues for you, but you need another social worker. You need to see copies of the petition of dependency. You need to see that form. Also, there's supposed to have been a plan that you can meet with the social workers, you and your husband, to decide where the child will be kept temporary till you guys fix up the allegations. And that plan is usually with family members. You make a list of family members and they will give you there. Also, if you're an Indian, Native American Indian, there's a thing called ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and your children can be turned over to an Indian family by the tribe, and they will take care of your case. They're not in there for the money, and Indian tribes are very good about taking care of their children. But you have to be a registered Indian, and so if you're not registered, you have to get registered, and the tribe's got to be one of the federal recognized tribes. So anyway, Amanda Penn Wild says, in drug cases, is there any way to not quit? Well, I know that there is, but okay. And Allison Miller at DCF is writing on TPR for next week. I never abuse or neglect my kids. I can't lose them. Don't know what to do. Well, let me answer Amanda about the drug thing. You need to go to get uh, a program that takes care of your drug addiction. If you have addiction, you need to get tested yourself by your own doctor and show a period of time that you're drug free, and that will help. Yes, Carolyn, thank you for taking your time to try to attempt to help you there. Allison, you need to get an attorney. That's the only way you're going to get there. And I think I need to talk about rule number one. Rule number one is the hardest things for parents to do. They don't want to spend money on an attorney, but it's the money that if you want your children, it's the best time. That's the best kind to spend. That's the best kind to spend. And so you need a professional attorney, a family law attorney. And how I tell people to find attorneys is you write the first word when you search on the internet, you put in find, and then you say the name of the city you're in, and also another city that is big close by you. With those two cities, so you say find in city and city a pro bono family law attorney. And that's going to pull up a list of attorneys that you can go through them and pick the 10 best to call by what they say. The reason why you're doing the calling is to find if they're still in business and if they have any experience with CPS. That's why you call them. Then your next step is to narrow the list from 10 down to 5. And that's the ones you do the consultation with and find one of the 5 that you'll hire to defend your case. That's how you find an attorney there, Allison. I said a pro bono attorney. Pro bono means they don't charge. There are pro bono attorneys, and there are good pro bono attorneys that do help. There are people that have law degrees that do care and that do help you. And so all you need to do, I don't know what city or state you're in, Allison, but I can help you there. Amanda Penn, I don't know what city or state you're in, but one of your 5 should be talk to Mr. Vincent W. Davis. I want to thank him for putting on this podcast. And he is a 35-year experienced family law attorney with trial background. He has fought CPS. He's won against CPS. He's done civil lawsuits against CPS in both state and federal courts. So he, is really good. You can Talk to them by calling 888-888-6582. Tell them you want a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. Also, I have the bottom of my screen. You type in that whole internet thing. It says consultation with attorney Vincent Davis, care of Bob Pace, Candlely.com, law offices of Vincent W.D. / Bob Pace. And you can also check his schedule there. And so, thank you, Carolyn. Thank you very, very much. I'm telling you, the key, and it wasn't my success, is I tried for a year and a half to fight him with public defenders myself. I got nowhere. And so I got my boys back. It took us, rest of my year and a half to get them back. But you need someone that knows how to navigate in the court, someone that can point out to the judge, someone that can know that the CPS are corrupt. They're not transparent. They'll lie. They'll bring up your hopes and then they'll crush your hopes. They'll make you sign something for promising that you'll get something. Do not sign anything. Do not talk to social workers or policemen. If you do happen to run into them, it's a yes/no answer. And if it gets really testy, say you want to speak to your attorney. That's your constitutional right to speak to your attorney, and that you'll get back to him. Make sure you get a business card from both the policeman and the social worker, because they'll lie. Now, with a policeman, he wears a badge, so you can write down his badge number. So that's good. The social workers should have identification card. They won't give you a business card. You need to verify their name. So they will have that. So it's very important that New Norwich, Connecticut. Okay, I'm glad to hear from you, Allison, in Norwich, Connecticut. Also, with social workers and policemen, don't let them in your house. By the way, this is my rule number 3. Don't let them in your house. You can deny anybody in your home. They have to have either a court order warrant, or they have reason because the child is at the moment extreme danger, meaning the child is being beaten up, being a child being shot or knifed or thrown against the wall. The child's in immediate danger. They can enter the home. But if there's no danger of presence, they don't. They have to have a court order warrant to enter your home. And it's got to be very explicit. I want to tell you about court warrants. They got to be explicit about that. They got to say the date, the time, the allegations, the person they're investigating, and so forth. Thank you, Amanda. You're from Washington. So we have Washington, we have Connecticut, we have California. And I thank all of you, my listeners out there, for doing that. And I'm sorry about the sad faces, I know, Lori, you're hurting. I know you are. You're on my show every day. And so I'm sorry for the sad faces. And I really want to help you all. And, my rule number 3 is don't talk to social workers. Don't let them in your home. Don't let them take your child. They have to have a court order warrant to do so, and stay outside with them. And you can always, anytime, ask to speak. You need to speak to your attorney. That's your prerogative, and you get back to them. That's a nice way to end it, because you're dealing with an entity that is so bad. It's a spider weaving a web around you, drawing you into them. And the sole purpose is the money part. I want you always to think in your mind about the 8 social workers with pink t-shirts on, stenciled on the front. We are professional child kidnappers. And on the back, it says, where are your children? And I'm trying to tell you, that's the mentality of social workers. And it seems consistent across the country. I've only had one social worker call in and talk to me about 40 minutes from Maryland. Very sweet lady. She said that she had a clinical psychology degree and that the Maryland put her through 6 months of more training, supposedly. Now, I've talked to other people from Maryland that have told me just the opposite. So I encourage that person to call back. But I'd love to have a good story from somebody. I love to hear that in this particular county or this particular city or state or country is doing okay. I hear sometimes back that things I suggested that they do work. Now, also on rule number 3, you have an issue about medical trafficking. And medical trafficking is when you take a child into the hospital and they take your child for no real reason. It's only because the social worker works in the hospital. And let's say you don't like what the doctor has attempted to say is wrong with your child, or you want a second opinion, and the doctor's feelings are hurt. Whereas they can't take your child. They don't have it. They have to have a court order. If you're in the hospital giving birth and the social worker comes into your birthing room, they can't take your child. There's been cases that they've snapped up a child just out of childbirth, and the policeman was with them. Those people belong in the lobby, not the birthing room. That's only for close families. And the hospitals are getting so bad that the doctors and the managers aren't doing their job. So watch it on medical trafficking. Be very careful when you say no to a doctor or something. You can say to them very easily, I believe what you're saying is true, but I want to get a second opinion. By law, you're entitled to a second opinion. Don't argue with the doctors. Don't talk to a social worker. If they come in and they say, I hear you're having trouble with the doctor, you say, look, I want to speak to my attorney before I talk anything further. Thank you very much. Give me your business card. That's what you need to do. You need to diffuse them, to get them out of your hair. Because right now, social workers don't believe in constitutional or constitutional rights or civil rights in your case. So there's a lot of problems with the CPS. And when I talk about CPS, I'm talking about the Child Protection Services. It's an agency that is supposed to help out protecting children from neglect or abuse and do family reunification. And it seems like they're not doing the family reunification, and they've gone overboard where they automatically remove a child who's not in danger, imminent danger, but they want to get that money, so they remove them. And you don't know the rules, you don't know the laws, you weren't born with a CPS manual, you weren't told. I swear they should have a class in high school called life skills, and that's where they could teach you. I don't think they even teach the facts of life anymore, but all that's got to be taught at high school. And if you get married, you should take a marriage class required to get married, because it's important that you know how to raise kids. It's important you know who CPS is, who your CPS person, social services is, and know what they are there. So that's rule number 3. I've talked about rule number 1, find an attorney. And then rule number 2 is the paperwork. It's the boring part. But if you're going to be involved, and you may be involved for 6 years, 8 years, some people 17 years if the child's 1 year old, because the child be kept until they're 18 and they get that $20,000 every month, every year, year after year. So it's a money-making business. So I'm telling you that you need to keep track of everything, and you should get a notebook, like a 3-inch binder, and stuff it full of notebook paper, that has the holes in there, and then get tabs, a package of tabs. And your first tab should deal with the incidents that have happened in your case. So what you do is, on the first line, you put the date, the time, and the people involved. On the second line, you describe the incident. It may take you 1 or 2 or 3 lines. Then you're going to put on the next, after that line, you're going to put in the outcome of the incident. What happened? You may not know the answer. You may have to wait a period. You leave it blank. Then skip a couple of spaces and write the next incident. Repeat that over and over. The reason why you're skipping spaces between the incidents, you may have to go back there and write some notes. Also use highlighters, pink pens, yellow pens, things that can highlight, because that helps you come back and find out what it is. Tab number 2 could be a list of all the programs that you're taking, all the drug testing that you've taken, all the parenting classes that you've taken. So that could be a list. With all that, you can may also insert documentations in there of the completed course certificates. That would go a long way there. Then tab number 3 may be incidentals like web pages you found, phone numbers you found that will help you with a CPS matter, and you write the information down. And then you can do more tabs depending on what you have. But make that notebook a CPS only notebook for all your stuff in there. And, anytime you involve with them, have it with you, because you can always refer to something that the CPS may think it's hearsay or something like that. But if you take careful notes, it will help you, understandably help you. So that's rule number 2. So I've talked about rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. I know those rules are boring. In every podcast, I do that. As far as being, I want to thank Grace. She's my producer, and she does a lot of hard work to make this show go. Also, again, I want to thank Mr. Davis for producing this podcast. And please call in at 888-888-6582. He'd love to talk to you. Now, besides texting messages, which all of you done, and I'm glad you put your city and state, I also receive messages from outside the U.S. My podcast is on 14 times a week, twice a day, 7 days a week. And other countries have listened to it and have called in. I've had Australia, I've had Canada, I've had United Kingdom, I've had Ghana, I've had Mexico, I've had Mozambique, and then I've had Denmark. Those are the countries in. Oh, that because the public defender has an ego problem. That's why he said that. He's a loser. And they know they're losers. They're not paid very much. They do golfing tournaments with the judge. They go out to lunch with the social workers, attorneys. They are strictly in it for a quick way to make a buck. They're young. They're not mature. And they barely maybe got through law school. They're not the cream of the crop. And a lawyer will help. I know for a fact that Vincent Davis has helped out tens of thousands of people across the country. He recently was in Oklahoma. He's in Northern California. I know he goes around the country. He does work. He does help. And I know firsthand that he helped too. But besides texting in your name and your city, state, or country, write in what you want about CPS. You girls this morning have been excellent. You right away described things. Sometimes you not like what I had to say, but yeah, sure, Caroline. But I think it's a girl that call. Listen, yeah, it's Lori Hiller. I think it's a girl, and the guy she lists may be her son, and she's in my show every day, and I don't know where she's from, but she's really sad, and I'm glad that she's here, and I'm trying to help her. So, but besides texting in, you can also schedule a time to be on my show. All you do is email grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. Say you want to be on my Monday show, Sunday show, Saturday show, morning or afternoon. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning for an hour Pacific Standard Time, 7 o'clock in the evening for an hour Pacific Standard Time, and that is 7 days a week. The only exception to that is on Sunday. I start at 8 o'clock in the morning instead of 10 o'clock. So that's the only deviation. From time to time, I may deviate from that time. I'll let you know. But it's now close approaching 55 mark. I have 5 minutes left. And does anyone have any last minute questions I can help you answer on? I have lots of topics. If I have more time, I could talk about. I could talk about the ICPC, which is the interstate organization that transferred your child from one state to another state because of special needs. I have the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, was enacted that Native American children could be placed with Indian families instead of dealing with CPS. So I can talk about that subject. I have the show modifications or close your case plan. It's a petition. In California, it's called a 388 motion. In Maine, it's called a 388 motion. But other states, it has a different name. But it's where you modify and you petition the court to have a hearing. The hearing is granted within 30 days. And that hearing has to be served on all councils. And, it should be done by an attorney. But it's a hearing that you can add things that are new, like your drug tests that you did, your programs, your parenting classes, or if you want to terminate the plan because you think there's no basis for what they've charged you with, you can fight it. All you have to do is, be knowledgeable, be a good listener, and I hate to say it, have to hire an attorney because it takes many years for attorneys to learn the things they need to learn. On top of that, it takes many years of hands-on experience learning. Social workers have us at a disadvantage. They right now do not care about you as a human being. They don't like seniors. They don't like elders. I was 60 years old when I lost my job through no fault of my own. I was 65 when they kidnapped my children and put them into the foster care system. And they violated for a good year and a half all my civil and constitutional rights to finally got an attorney aboard who did protect me and who did get my two boys back. There's no question that really was good there. Other topics could be institutional welfare codes that for your state that will clarify what they're doing. There's also a flow chart. I have several flow charts where it takes you through the steps of the process of your case and so forth. I know it's very foreign to you, and not one person has it memorized or how they do it out there. But I encourage you, and I strongly want you to get your children back. Yeah, I thought about doing a book for dummies for a CPS workbook. Yep, that's what my show is kind of like. I'm not an attorney, but I do try to help out things that may have worked good for me and that may have worked good for others. I have a host, by the way, a co-host, Danielle from Georgia, who wasn't on this morning. She said she was, but maybe she'll be on this evening. But she has a different case than mine. Her case was her child was moved from the state of Georgia to the state of Texas because he's a special needs child and they didn't have any way of helping him. He'll still need the care of her mom, but her mom passed away. During that time, he transitioned from 17 to 18 and he's lost in the system. Right now, the mom should have the child back by the 20th of this month as an adult guardianship of the child with special needs. She takes care of her brother who has special needs. So she's a strong person, Danielle. And she's will be on this evening. I'm pretty sure she will on there. Okay, it's the witching hour. This is where I say goodbye. I have 1 minute left here. Again, I want to thank Carolyn Moon, that called in, that opened up her heart, who expressed everything, and I still feel bad that I didn't come across as letting her think that she could talk, and I really wanted to. But thank you for calling in, Carolyn. If you want to call in again, I would love that. I'd love that. So she's from LA County, California. Then there's Lori Hiller. Thank you for listening. And I know that your son William Willis misses you as a mother there. Then Allison Melote there. It was nice to hear somebody from Connecticut. And if you want to call in the next time, please do so. And Amanda Penn from Washington State, from Saukee County. I know you have a hard case there, and I feel for you. I want you to do that too. And so, yes, I agree with you, Amanda. I want to say God bless you all, and I'll see you tonight. Keep fighting for your children. This is Bob Page.